I'm Ryan, and this is Marsh. I quit my job in the city to become a part-time hermit and full-time hunting and fishing guide, living on 283 acres of wilderness surrounded by national forest in the Ouachita Mountains. The Ouachitas are a unique and ancient mountain range. They run east-west. That rare geography creates a diverse ecosystem, home to white-tailed deer, black bear, coyotes, turkeys, bobcats, and mountain lions. I started this journey in October of 2023 with a bare 20-foot shipping container. I moved in on day one with no grid and no backup plan. Over time, it slowly turned into a home, one small project at a time. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine, fully paid for, constantly improving as I find the time and money, and honestly, it's one of the things I'm most proud of. My goal is to manage this land for wildlife and build a small off-grid homestead where guests can come and experience real life hunting, fishing, and living wild in the Ouachitas.
So just real quickly, I want to go over my shipping container. It's just going to be a kind of a quick video that goes over what I've done, what I plan to do, how much it cost, and would I do it again? The video, the container, the video really doesn't do it justice. It is camouflaged. This is a 20-foot high vol, which means it's the 9-foot tall version. And you'll see that that makes quite a difference inside when you're dealing with the square footage of a 20-foot shipping container. It's a 20 by 9 tall by 8 wide. So the container is camouflaged to blend in. I purchased this in late 2022, early 2023 when I had this moved here. I believe I ordered this in the central Arkansas area, and it was around $4,000 just for the container. It was another $1,000 to have it moved to the property, which is delivered here. I probably would have done better to have hired someone to deliver it to the property and set it up instead of paying a delivery. You almost pay 2 delivery fees just to get someone to come back out here and move it to where I wanted it once I figured out where I wanted it. So I paid $5,000 to get it onto the property. I paid about another $1,200 to $1,800. I think it may have been $1,800 to get it moved up the mountain, which is, there's no way for me to show you how steep it is, but it is quite steep. There was no road here when I had this delivered to the property, so having it set up where it is now was not an option. All right, so we're about 6,500 into getting the container sitting here with just a raw 20-foot shipping container. The next thing I did was I had to stud out the inside. I used the Container Guys brackets, which I would 100% use again. They are pricey, but they space your studs away from the container. For what they are expensive, but you buy one for a 20-foot shipping container and it spaces all your studs away from the ceiling and the walls, because I knew I was going to use spray foam. So I did stud the inside out. So after you stud the inside out, as you're studding the inside out, you can do the ceiling, but before you can really do the walls, you've got to decide how many openings you're going to have. And I framed my windows with 2 by 10. I'm pretty sure 2 by 10 or it's 2 by 10. And by using the 2 by 10s, they perfectly aligned so I framed my window in a 2 by 10 and I cut the hole to that size. And then those 2 by 10s align perfectly in line with the 2 by 4s that you used to stud out the inside. So you got to decide before you go, you know, to the next, after you stud the roof, you've got to stud the walls. You've got to decide how many openings. I did 3. This is a 48 by 36 window that is, it was supposed to be vertical and I changed it to horizontal. It was given to me, it was refurbished from another construction project. This window, I went to Lowe's and purchased, or this sliding glass door. This is my main way to enter and egress from the container. It is a Pella, and I believe it was $1,200 to $1,400. It has the blinds in it, which I thought was very crucial for what I was doing. Then again, I also did frame it out with the 2x10s, except for the bottom. I let the bottom of that sit completely on the container floor, and I'll show you the floors. Up here, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. This is in my loft area. This is above my bed, and this is a little 24 by 36, 24 tall by 36 inch sliding glass window. That is in my loft. On those nice nights, you can open that. It's got a screen. You can get up there. So after I put those 3 windows in and framed them and cut the holes for them, I was able to stud my walls out. After I stud my walls out, I was able to call someone to, well, I was able to wire. I didn't run any plumbing. All my plumbing in the future will be done through the floor on the bottom of the container. But I was able to call someone to spray foam. You know, at the same time I was getting the spray foam, I had built, the weekend before, I'd built this solar farm. I'd gotten all my solar components hooked up. I'd spent a week just wiring. So the 2 weeks leading up to the spray foam and the mini split was probably around $1,200. I spent about $20,000. 15 to 20,000 on solar, and I think we're looking at about less than 10,000 insulated to get the container in the shape it was in then. Then I had to start finishing out the inside. We'll go in. There is one other opening up on the roof. There is a Max Air fan right above my head, right next to the Met station. I built this garage and studied it out so that I could have a kitchen on the other side. This was going to be my main entrance, but I decided to go with the sliding glass door. So glad I did. This makes living in a 160 square foot shipping container very tolerable. Having a garage, having a place where you can go throw a Instapot or have a, you know, something like that. You know, your winter clothes, you can bag them up, throw them in there. Have your batteries in there. It just saves you a lot of space, right? Also, Marsh has her doggy door. There's a little doggy door there for her, so she can come and go as she pleases. Moving to the inside, we'll go over this wall first. This is my kitchen area. As you can see, when I got this, I put these slab shelves in probably first. This countertop and these slab shelves, I put them in before anything else. But the reason being because they had to be tied into the studs in the wall. There is no support other than the studs. And those are 3-inch slabs. I think they were black walnut. But I epoxied this one. I put a little wipe-on finish on this one, which I don't really like. And I put a finish on this one. Then I did 1x10 back wall. And that is stained with a black stain. Underneath the countertop, I put in some furniture grade plywood. And I just cut some little holes, and we'll see if you can see in there. It's where I store my water, Instapot, propane bottles are stored in there, which probably shouldn't be. Eventually they'll be moved outside. I'll get a bigger bottle. But lots of good storage underneath there. And you can, so this container is 9 foot tall, 8 foot wide, 20 foot long. By putting these in first, I was able to have these in. They taped them off. They came in and they spray foamed. And I got the electricity, spray foam, and the air conditioner all in the same about 3 week span. So it was a lot of work for those 3 weeks. But that got me to where I had electricity in here. I had a way to stay cool and stay, out of the sun. Before that, when I was in here, it was during the day, it was starting to get warm. It was early summer by the time I got all that done. And I believe the temperatures in here were somewhere in the neighborhood of 115, 120 during the height of the day, 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It would get very hot in here, and then it would cool off at night, and me and Marsh would breathe, and our breath would create a condensation. And so another thing I put in, which I haven't trimmed anything out yet, but I put in a max air fan. Now I believe that is something that you want inside of a 40 foot or 20 foot shipping container. That's my Vent-A-Hood. That's my everything. You want to be able to crack a window, turn that on. I've got, I don't know if you can see it, but right here, there is a smoke detector, CO monitor, and it is very touchy. And you kind of want that in such a small space. These containers, with a dog and me in here, it's easy to set off that CO alarm just with our breath, really. So you want to be able to have some ventilation. That mini split, the Mr. Cool 9000, is very overkill. It barely runs. It's 73 in here right now. I just turned it up because I don't like for it to be freezing in here during the day. I can't hardly sit in here if it's below 70, 73. I like to sleep with it down around 69. I have zero problems cooling it off in the evening. So just on these shelves, go over this real quick. The top shelf there, this is my first aid kit, cleaning supplies, and then we start into my pantry. And then on the second shelf, it's kind of like a little bowl for your wallet and your keys. Go into some personal hygiene and some extra dishes and jars. Then we get into the pantry side of things. I keep a small pantry, but I keep a pantry that's mostly dry goods to where I can go pick some vegetables out of the garden. I can take a piece of meat out of the freezer, and I've usually got everything I need right there in that little area to go with any of those things. I've had futons in here. I've had couches. I've had several options in here. I don't know that this is permanent, but right now I really love this. This has provided me with a great work area. Place to edit video, place to eat breakfast, eat dinner. I found with a couch down here that the couches that would fit in here were very uncomfortable. I thought that was going to be a great option because that way when I have a guest come, I have a couple friends that come from Little Rock to hunt, they would have a place to sleep. But the couch was so uncomfortable that I ended up sleeping on it, and they ended up sleeping in my loft. And after I slept on it a couple nights, I realized this thing's worthless. It's not comfortable to sit on, work on. I can't really work on it. So I decided that we would I've got the mattress this mattress right here. That goes in the back of my Tacoma on top of my deck system. It fits right here, makes a great pallet, and you don't even have to unfold it if it's just one person. And if it's two people, you can unfold it and it sleeps too in the floor, and you still got your place to eat, counter space, and you can pick that up real easy, toss it outside in the garage, and it's out of the way. I built my little gun rack. Holds 6 guns. That's a start. I've got a couple of extra guns. I've got a 300 Blackout. This is my varmint gun, and it's on the wall with a magnet. I use it, I keep it kind of loaded and handy. I keep it for, in case, you know, raccoons or possums or anything's trying to get in my chicken coop, I've got a gun to grab and go out. In addition to that, right here at the front door, I've got a 9mm with a flashlight. I love this thing. I use this as much as anything. I've got my headlamp, but typically 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm going out to pee. This is my flashlight. I love that TLR1. It doesn't match my gun, but I've got one that does. So underneath the loft, this is Marsh's little area. We'll just go over this real quick. All right, so the loft is exactly my height. Maybe it's a 1/2 inch shorter or 1/4 inch shorter than me. That's how I set that. I actually had the measurements for a purple mattress. I took the purple mattress and calculated in the studs, and that's the height. I set it, I wanted it as close to the ceiling. I wanted to be able to almost walk underneath here naturally. Now, I haven't finished this out. I could put tongue and groove on this. I did leave some cracks and gaps in here for my purple mattress to breathe. I didn't go the full length of the purple mattress. I can turn the purple mattress sideways and it all fits up there and there's extra space. But I like turning it this way because it leaves me room for one piece of furniture up there to set my phone on and my iPad or whatever and watch movies at night. Let's see. Underneath here, I put in a hanger bar. This is my closet. It keeps most of my winter and summer hang-up clothes. Any additional winter clothes would go in a bag and be taken to storage. Marsh's got her little, this is called the Momarsh. And the Momarsh, it's unrelated. It's not a sponsor. She's not sponsored by that product, but she does love her bed. I don't know if you can see her. It's really dark and underneath the loft. I need to add a light in here. So this is Marsh's little area. Like, she comes in the doggy door. She's got her food and water and her Momarsh, and that's right underneath my closet. And then moving around, we've got a little electric vacuum and a power mop. And you can use broom if you want to, but with these hard floors in the summertime, especially with the dogs and the cats, I vacuum probably 3 or 4 times a day just to keep the hair down. The cat really only comes in to eat. That vacuum doesn't stir up dust. What I found with a broom is that you get dust on your shelves. You get dust in your air conditioner vent filters. You get dust in your max air fan. So sweeping in such a small space really isn't even an option. I think you should use a vacuum 100% of the time. Even in a big space, I think of a little dust vacuum that'll do hardwood floors, I think is a great purchase. Moving back to the closet, I do have this. I think I bought this at IKEA, or I can't remember where I bought this, but I bought it years ago. I've had this thing for probably, I don't know, 15 years. And it's just a little organizer. I bought it for shoes, but I use it like it's like my dresser drawers. So I keep, anything you can fold, there's a shirt. I can put almost the same amount of clothes in that as I would put in a small dresser. Next to that is, I do have a light. This is where I store all my seeds for planting. And so as I go through the summer and I harvest seeds out of tomatoes and squash and different plants, I will take that seed and I'll dry it out on a drying rack outside. I'll then place it inside here and it will spend its winter inside here and the rest of its life in here. The reason for that is just to keep it in a cool, dark space. I keep it right here inside a wooden box. This is my freezer. It's very small, but like if I fill this with meat, like steak and chicken and pork butts, I can keep enough food in this little Thompson mini fridge. I can probably keep somewhere in the neighborhood of, I would say 2.5, 3 weeks worth of food pretty easily. This thing doesn't use a lot of electricity. It freezes really quickly, and I believe it uses, a lot of the freezing element actually comes down in here into the fridge. It keeps vegetables for a long time. It keeps cheese for a long time. Game changer. I was living out of an ice box for the first probably 4 or 5 months until I got my electricity. Once I got my electricity, I picked that thing up off Marketplace for, I think it was a $100 bill. And it's been great. I would probably buy another one new if I got another one. It works great. Next to the refrigerator is my handy dandy steps to my loft. The steps are temporary. They've been here for a year. So they're, I'm trying to think of whether, like I've thrown the idea of building a log ladder, and I've also wanted to build boxes in which I think I could maybe cut out this section and build boxes. And the last box before you went into my loft would be the box that covered the fridge. And you'd be able to step on that box and then go in there. And you'd have 2 or 3 other boxes right here for storage. I just haven't decided. The ladder works for now. I really want to do the boxes, but that lumber's pretty expensive, and I'm not competent in my building with plywood like that. It probably needs to be at least 3/4 inch, and I'm gonna have to build like several different boxes, and I don't know how to measure it out. I probably need to tape it on the wall. I was really waiting until I got the tongue and groove in here before I built those anyway, because I wanted the tongue and groove to be the back of the box. I didn't want to have to build the back of the box or tongue and groove around the boxes. So I wanted them to. Anyway, that's, I think I've got, let's see. There is 1, 2 outlets, 3 outlets. And then right here next to the fridge, there's a 4th outlet. And then up in the loft, there's an outlet, which I'll show you now. All right, so I'm climbing up into the loft, and I'll just kind of show you what I have. This little pink magazine rack is like an end table that my mom had in her Mercedes Sprinter as like a bedside table, and I was like, she was gonna throw it out. I haven't repainted it, but it will be repainted or stained black. I'll probably sand it down and stain it. You can see I haven't trimmed anything out anywhere in the container, but it is ready for trim. You can see the spray foam and the studs up in there. So I do have like a little fan, an Amazon fan. I have a speaker, a little clips speaker there's my bookshelf and liquor cabinet and some canned goods and prepping type supplies. Closer look at my little gun rack. It's kind of cool. I just built it out of 1x scraps, and then on that end I just built a little T with holes cut in it, and it holds my guns good, keeps them up off the floor, keeps them up out of reach. There's not a lot of children that come up here, but sometimes my buddy brings his grandchildren up here, and then, from time to time there's a child around, but not very often. That's why I can keep so many guns, loaded guns, laying around, and I do. All right. I hate old pillows, the way they look and how ugly they are. So this is my window that faces out towards the west in my loft. There's my outlet. It needs to be readjusted to come out to meet that cover plate. My rack here has a night light, some Tums, and it's just a place for me to set my cell phone, set up the iPad, and watch a little TV. It is kind of tight here. If you're looking, my hands are almost fully extended. That's how tall it is. I'm 5'9", 5'8", and yeah, it's a loft. It's very cozy. A lot of people say they couldn't sleep up here because they would be claustrophobic. You can see I've got a lot of gap right there, but that's okay. I finished with the wood I had, and I can trim that out. With the insulation, it doesn't matter. The gaps didn't really matter. So it is cozy up here. Very comfortable, very enjoyable. I sleep so good up here. Last look around. This is my truck bed that goes inside my Tacoma under the camper shell for when I go camping. My bed is not made. It is very gnarly right now. I am not a bed maker. I do not make my bed. There's no one but me gonna see that. And when I climb up there, I don't like to have to peel the covers up. So I just climb in, throw the covers over me, and I'm in bed. The window's got a screen on it. There's my outlet. Here's my tongue and groove. And yeah, that's it. All right, so cost. Let's say let's just break down some stuff. Say it was $5,500 to get the container where it's sitting. $1,200 window, sliding glass door. This was free. That window up there was like $75. So we're somewhere in the neighborhood of, $7,500, $7,300. The slab shelves, I bought 2 slabs, and those were in the neighborhood of, I think, $400. I think I paid $400 for those 2 slabs, and I built all of my shelves, all of my countertops, everything out of those 2 slabs. And I still have a little piece left that I could use to do some trim work. So we're somewhere in the neighborhood of, say, $8,000. The insulation was around $1,200. So we're at $9,200. The studs and all the woodwork that I did, finish work in here so far, is probably around, just cost of material, I would say we're somewhere under $1,000. So now we're at 10.2. Insulation's already figured in. The The mini split was in the neighborhood of $1,200 to $1,400. Solar, so we're at 11. Say the solar was, we'll just say it was under 20 grand. I think it was probably around 18. So now we're at $28,000. I can't think of anything else. You know, there's little odds and ends, wiring stuff. There's stuff that add up. We'll say that's another, light fixtures. I think those were like $45 a piece. They change colors. They're really nice. I like running red lights in here at night so that when I do open that sliding glass door, that bugs don't come in. So these lights, every light I have are put in the container. I wouldn't put just regular white lights. I would always make sure that those lights change colors. You can open the door and leave the door open with red lights on, and you will not draw bugs in. If you turn them white lights on, you will see the bugs. You'll hear them hitting the windows trying to get in here. So living way up on the mountain, another benefit of red lights is that, someone that's 7 or 8 miles away from me, they can't see that red light. You can see fine in here at night with red light, especially if you're just doing computer work. It's actually easier on your eyes. So I like to have a little light, but I don't like to have a lot of light. Like during the day, I'll run white lights, but during the night, I like for my eyes to be relaxed, and I like for my lights to change. So, light fixtures, CO monitor, smoke detector, minus my personal stuff that's in here, I would say we're probably less than 30 grand. All in 30 grand. I would think you could build this all over again for less than 30 grand. And I chose to do some very expensive things. I love battle-worn batteries. I like Victron energy components. I don't know how you can make the argument that Victron's not the best in the world. I use spray foam. You don't have to use spray foam. I used the brackets that space my studs out so that I could spray foam. You don't have to do any of that. You can just get the foam board that has the wall, it has the studs built into it, and you can just put that in here. And I could have had the same thing, and I might have even had more room. It may have been less insulation. On the south facing wall, I paid for extra insulation. On the ceiling, I paid for extra insulation. There's 3 inches of foam on the south facing and 3 inches of foam on the ceiling. I only have 1.5 inches on the floor and maybe 2 inches on this back wall. There may be 2 inches underneath. I've never measured it. It's adequate, very adequate. You can run the pilot light on a big buddy heater, and that is sufficient to keep it nice and warm in here on most nights in the winter. 30 grand, yeah, 30 grand all in. With me doing all the work, if you're not doing the work, you can probably double that number. That's how most people who do construction work and build things for a living, use their hands to build things. That's pretty much how they bid things. They decide, okay, materials is $30,000. The labor's going to be $30,000. And that's how they make their money. They make their money off the labor side, right? So I would think if you were going to hire someone to do this, it's probably 30 grand. I didn't do it all in 2 weeks. I didn't do it all in a year. It's an ongoing process. So I don't have a deadline to get this done. I just have, I have things to do. I have a bullet list, and as money comes available, I do those things. Man, would I do it again? 100%. 100%. Taking the land out of the picture, just the container. I believe that you could build this container just like this. And if you have grid available, you don't have you can take $15,000 to $20,000 off that $30,000 price if you're doing the work. And you're going to be in the $15,000 range if you buy the materials and do it yourself and you tie into the grid. Of course, if you tie into the grid, you got monthly bills. And part of the reason I did it up here is to not have monthly bills. I like the fact that electricity is not available. That probably means that I'm not going to have neighbors. And that's really not an option with the amount of land I own and the people, the national forest being around me on three sides. My only chance for a neighbor would be if Weyerhaeuser sold land to the south of me. And they don't like to sell land. If they do sell it, they do not sell it for very cheap. They sell it for quite a price, and most people aren't going to buy that land for that price. Would I do it again? Yes. I love living up here. I love the rugged toughness of, this lifestyle. I don't mind getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning and walking out to a bathhouse to use the restroom. I don't mind taking a shower outside in 20-degree weather. I don't mind that. It's hot water. It feels good. I enjoy it. I enjoy getting hot and sweaty and being dirty during the day and having a nice place to come at night. I can clean this whole place really quickly. I can keep it cool very easily, very quickly. I can have this, it can be 120 degrees, and within, I would say, 10 to 15 minutes, I can have it down to 65 degrees in here. It cools off quickly. It stays very dry. With the mini split does a great job of drying this out, keeping it dry. There's no mold issues. There's no, people say container and spray foam, you're going to have mold issues. If you put a max air fan in and you have a window you can crack, you're not going to have mold issues. This is closed cell foam, which is, the one that they say, I guess, has the mold issues. There's no, I have a humidity meter in here right now. I have this on cool. The max air, or the Mr. Cool is on cool. If I put it on drive, right now the humidity in here is 58%. If I put that thing on dry, I can get it down to, somewhere in the neighborhood of 30% humidity inside here. You're not going to have mold issues. Just with the Mr. Cool and closing this thing up, you're not going to have humidity issues in this building. The max air fan, when you're cooking, boiling water, canning, me and Marsh are sleeping. Yeah, every once in a while you need to crack a window and turn that on. But like that CO alarm goes off probably 20 or 30 times a year. It goes off and says, "Hey, your CO levels are high." It talks to you. It tells you what they are. It'll be, it'll go off and say, "Hey, your CO levels are." I'll be cooking in here. Me and Marsh will be sleeping, and I haven't opened a window all day. It'll be 170 parts per million. I can crack a window, turn the max air fan on, and man, in about 25, 30 seconds, I've totally changed whatever air's in here. I've sucked it out of here, and we've got all new air. The alarm goes off. I would not live in a space this tiny without a CO alarm or without a smoke detector. The smoke detector goes off when I'm cooking quite frequently, but the CO alarm goes off, way more frequently than I knew. Before I had that, I suspected that I had CO problems in the wintertime when I was running the Mr. Cool, when I was totally off-grid, had no electricity, when I was running the Mr. Cool. I suspected that CO was high in here. And then once I installed that, I found out this living in a small space with a dog and me, it's very easy to cook something or run a propane stove. And I can't imagine if I had a fire going in here, Like that's one of my game plans for this year is to get a little one of those mini, you know, wood burning stoves because I have so much wood around the area to burn. I would like to have a wood burning stove, but I can't imagine doing that and not having a CO alarm. That's really anywhere you go in life, anywhere you live, you should have a CO alarm. I was very surprised at how frequently that thing has gone off in the last year, especially in the wintertime. It'll just go off in the middle of the night and it'll say 200 parts per million all of a sudden. And you're like, wow. You know, that propane stove not getting complete combustion will lead to high CO alarm real quick. Yeah, that's my shipping container. It's evolving, it's changing. There's a lot of things. There's not many things I would change, and that's part of it. I lived in this as I was building it. So, literally during the day, I would have to take stuff and put it out in the yard and build something. Build a countertop or build a loft or build this or build that. I had to live in here, but that gave me a really good flow of how I lived in this small of a space. So I knew I don't really need a big huge sink. I don't need a big huge propane oven and gas. Once I get my deck out here and have an outdoor covered patio, I will have me a propane powered oven out there. I will have me a grill. I will have a sink. I'll have all those things out there on the patio, but I don't have to have those in here. I can do meal prep right there and cook on a Blackstone griddle or on my JetBoil Genesis, and that's enough space for me to cook for me and Marsh, you know. Living in the space while you're building it, I highly recommend that. And I know, like, living in a space while you're having a remodel done is a pain in your butt because you have people showing up at your house at 5 o'clock in the morning to start work, and you're not ready to go to work. You're not ready to even, you want to sit down and drink your coffee in your small clothes and your underwear, and you're not, that's a pain in the butt. But living here, it's at my schedule. Things are done at my speed. I highly recommend you just live in the space. Like from day one, start living in that space and figure out, I know how, what was it, Da Vinci's, his man, and he talks about the measurements of that man. I think this space is built around my measurements. That loft is built around my measurements. Now, if I come home with a big girlfriend, we may have some problems up there in that loft area as far as, sleeping space and weight restrictions on the loft. But 2 people can sleep up there, no problem. 2 normal sized people. Live in the space, build things that accommodate you, your body size, how you live in that space, and don't worry about what anybody thinks or says. It's I have my own system and it works, and it's worked for a year and I love it. I wouldn't change. There's little changes I want to make, but there are things like, I'd like to add a little TV and a gaming console at some point. I would like to finish trimming out the container and have, trim everywhere there should be trim. I would like to, have water plumbed into the container, if maybe right outside, but I could have a small sink underneath that cabinet and get away from hauling water. Maybe I capture rainwater, filter it, and then run it through my Berkey, and I just have the Berkey and not the well water too. Maybe I get away from that. I can just run the rainwater into the Berkey and be done. That's my one process. There's little things I'll change over time. The stairs is a major thing that bothers me. It only bothers me when I come up or go down. So it bothers me twice a day, but I don't think about it the rest of the day. I think about it when I'm filming and people see it in the background. It kind of, it's very ugly. It doesn't match the rest of the cabin, but I mean, people are going to say the cabin's ugly. Yeah, well, you know, camouflage the outside, but it is ugly. It's nice in here. It's, you know, 74 degrees right now, 54% humidity. I could crank it down to 60 if I wanted to. It, I would absolutely 100% do this again. I love living like this. I've lived like this a long time before I lived here. Even on rental properties in central Arkansas area when I was working there, I lived a very frugal lifestyle. I took my paper towels and my mail and I composted those and I used them to build garden soil for my garden. And I've lived this isn't like something I just decided to do a year ago. I've been easing this way for a long time. I love solitude. I love long periods of solitude. I believe that I could live on a sailboat and sail across the Pacific regularly. Like, you know, those 2 or 3 week periods where you don't see anything but dolphins, I think I could do that. Yeah, I love this lifestyle. I wouldn't change it for anything. And I love living in the Ouachitas. I love being able to go middle of the day, quit doing whatever chores I'm doing. It's hot, and I go jump in a cold pool of water. I love this life. I love living like this. This has all been paid for pretty much in cash as I went. There was a time last year where a lot of expenses were coming at me very rapidly, and I did take out a small loan to pay off the solar and get 3 or 4 things done at one time because summer was coming. I needed electricity, I needed an air conditioner, and I needed insulation. I needed those 3 things in a very rapid succession, almost simultaneously. So, yes, I wasn't able to stretch that portion out, but if this wasn't where you were living, you could, and I could have stretched it out. I just didn't. I didn't want to. I wanted to get it done. Those 3 things make sense. When you get one, you need the other 2. It's like a tripod you need, and so I did that. I did borrow money for that, but I paid it off within like I think 4 to 6 months. It was completely paid off using my guide money, my fishing money. So, but other than that, I don't see myself changing a whole lot. I would like an outdoor living area, a deck that is potentially screened in. Maybe not. Maybe it's just a porch with a roof over it, and maybe I screen it in later. Maybe I don't. The bugs aren't that bad up here. The flies, there is a season where the flies are really bad from all the chicken houses and hog houses, but you know, that's probably anywhere. I love it. I love living here. These are the natural floors. These are the factory floors. Also, if you are going to buy a shipping container, I highly recommend buying A plus grade. Like, go ahead and buy a nice shipping container that you don't have to do a bunch of rust repair, paint remods, change out the flooring, those kind of things. Like, this is industrial, commercial vinyl flooring, but it's like 3/4 inch. Like when I cut, it's probably 1 inch. When I cut a hole out in the floor to do a drain hole, it was like really thick. And I highly recommend you get the nicest container you can. Yes, you can get a container for way less than $5,000 delivered to your property, making that $3,000 container the $5,000. How much is your time worth per hour? And then how many hours worth of work are you going to have to do to get the rust fixed, the paint gone? And I didn't have to deal with any of that. I was the day this got here, I could, if I'd have had these windows and known what I wanted in here, I'd have been able to cut the holes out, spray paint, stick those in. I mean, not having to deal with the container rusting and being smashed in on one side is a huge deal. If you find a vendor in your area for shipping containers, I highly recommend you go out and physically look at them and see what products they're selling, because the people I deal with they will not bring me, I think they have some B plus containers, but they do not have anything. They've got brand new and they've got single use, and this is a single use. It had one little scratch on it, one little dent, and I sanded it down, spray painted it, and it's fine. It hasn't rusted back. I highly recommend you get the best container you can to start with. That helps out a lot. And I highly recommend the 9-foot. I can't imagine being in here and trying to build a loft and have, work on Marsha's doggy door or put the tongue and groove in underneath if you take a foot out of here, it changes the amount of space I have. It literally changes the amount of square footage. Then you're setting a bed down on the floor, and then that's taking up half of your shipping container. A 40-foot, I would like to build a 40-foot out next time for my lodging down low, but it will be built out very similar to this in that half of that shipping container will be storage, and then it will have a 20-foot living area in it. And eventually the other 20-foot will be another living area. So you'll be able to take a 40-foot container and build 2 of these in it. I would maybe like to build one that was 2 20-foot shipping containers. I have some ideas on how I'd like to build that. But I think the next one I build will be a 40-footer with, a half storage and then almost this exact layout as far as living quarters. Yeah. Love it. That's all I got. This video's went on way longer than it should have. And I'll try to edit some of that out.